All right, let's get started. Thanks everyone for joining this webinar. Very glad to meet you all. I hope that my connection is stable because I am facing a little bit of a network issue today. So are you all able to see me clearly and hear me clearly? You can show a thumbs up or you can put it on chat. Perfect. Thank you. Right. I'm Narayani Raghavan, and I am about to run this next 1 hour webinar with all of you. Oh, you can't see me, is it? Okay, I am on video. Right. Okay. Not sure why, but I am on video. Okay, let me start sharing my screen as well. Okay, you can see me now, is it? Someone says visible. All right, great. Thank you so much, everybody. So welcome to this webinar on executive presence, Own the Room. The very purpose of this program is to create awareness for you and to help you with techniques by which you can own the room that you are speaking in, right? Whether it is virtually or whether it is in person. See, we are going to explore about executive presence and also about what is executive presence in today's world, how the world has changed and has also changed the definition of executive presence just in the last couple of years since the pandemic and since the time the world has seen dramatic changes with AI. And we are going to see today about 3 key methods by which you can own the room. I'm Narayani Raghavan, and I'm a learning architect. I come with about 15 years of experience in L&D, and I have worked in organizations like AstraZeneca, HCL, Virtusa, Royal Bank of Scotland. And for the last 8 months, I am an independent learning architect. I facilitate trainings. I'm a one-to-one coach. And I have partnered with SkillUpRight in this specific program that I'm running for you today. So this, of course, is a webinar. It's a 1 hour webinar. So we can, of course, create awareness. I can tell you the techniques and methods. Of course, you know, if you're expecting to change the way you speak in 1 hour, it entirely depends on how far you unlearn and adopt newer techniques that you learn today, right? So do keep me posted. You can keep typing on chat if whatever you're hearing from me is something that you're hearing new, you've already seen it somewhere, you've read about it somewhere, you have any thoughts or reflections or questions, feel free to put it on chat. And from time to time, I will also go through the chat. Yeah. All right. Now, in the next slide, I have coming up in the next couple of slides. I want one about the kind of presence that this leader exhibits, right? So here you go. We have Michelle Obama here, Indra Nooyi, and J. Jayalalitha. CMD. You can type their name and type the word that comes to your mind, right? For example, I would say for Michelle Obama, I would say confidence. Right? For Indra Nui, I would say leadership presence. And for Jayalalitha ma'am, I would say authority or command, right? So similarly, what's the one word that comes to your mind about their presence, their personality that they display? Voice is breaking, is it? Okay, can you hear me clearly now? And I also see some words coming up. Influential, boss lady, power and influence. Okay. Boldness and confidence. Okay. Pathbreakers. Yeah. So whenever I go into the chat, you will be seeing a blank screen. That's unfortunately a challenge that we have with Teams. So when I'm looking at the chat, you might not be able to see my presentation. Right. Please put up with that. Path breakers, path creators. Okay. Michelle, Grace, Indra, leadership and grit, and Jayalalitha, authoritative. Power, money, and confidence. Okay. Very nice. Very interesting words. Thank you. Now, here comes the next slide, and you can now write about the executive presence that these gentlemen exhibit, right? Now, this is not, don't give me a political view, but purely from the way they carry themselves or the way they speak. I mean, regardless of your political preferences, I mean, right? But how do they influence? How do they speak? How do we feel when we hear them or when we see them? Strategy, global connection, okay. For Mr. Modi, it is confidence, authoritative leader, calm and composed, say many. All right. Someone has also written a detailed one for Michelle, Indra, and Jayalalitha. That's a good one. Enigmatic, clarity and awareness, leadership, operational excellence for Indra, and influential strength and empathy for Jayalalitha. Okay, very nice. And now to our men that we saw, our Prime Minister, Narendra Modi ji, and the so business oriented and bold and strategy. Trump confused, Modi okay. Modi strategic, Trump business leader, energetic, multi-talented, people magnets, charismatic, media savvy, yeah, bold. Trump gives an opinion that I'm seeing the word business centered, self-loving billionaire. Okay. All right. Very nice, right? Great words. Thanks for sharing that. So this is to tell us about the kind of power executive presence has. And leaders, they actually work on this, right? There's so many leaders who have trained themselves, consciously worked on the way they carry themselves. In fact, we know that, I've heard and read that from the period of Barack Obama, he, in even the direction in which he shows his face, he would generally ensure that the right side of his face is seen. The blue that he wears, the color of their clothing, everything creates presence. So there is, in fact, there are experts on power dressing in itself, which plays a big role on executive presence. Today for us, power dressing is aspect, but we're not entirely going into that. Now, I would like to hear from you all. This is now yourself, right? So the professional version of you. What is the one word that you would like people to use to describe your executive presence? Like what would, no, I'm not asking about what they will what they will say right now, but I'm asking about what you would like people to share. And most often, what we choose is what we also consciously try to adopt. And so let's have clarity on what it is that we want to exhibit, because then we're going to see about if that's what we want, then how do we do it, right? So think about it and share. So you might see a blank screen. I'll come back to the chat window. Okay, you'd like to be known as structured, smart and confident, intelligent, knowledgeable, influential, connected to ground level, walk the talk, very nice. To be empathetic leader, okay. Smart, confident and bold, resourceful, confident and knowledgeable, very nice. Compassionate, okay. Powerful, okay. Great points coming up. More put together, confident, bold, graceful, powerful, approachable, problem solver, approachable. Great points. All right. Very nice. Great points. So, okay, inspiring, fun. That's also a very nice one. Inspiring, fun, and reachable. Great to know this, right? Now, this is about who you want to be known as. Now, let's also ask 3 questions. Does this happen to you? Okay. Now, in case you are hesitant to type on chat, because we don't know each other, as we don't, your names are flashed, but we don't know each other. So if you're comfortable, you can try yes, no on chat, or you can react. So if this happens to you, then give me a thumbs up, right? So do your ideas get talked over, credited someone else in meetings, in discussions, right? This is about the reality, right? So you could give me a thumbs up reaction if that happens to you. Okay. So I am seeing a few thumbs up. Okay. Many of them going up. Yeah. And do you walk into meetings already shrinking yourself? This is another one, right? Maybe if not the first one or both, but sometimes we walk into a meeting already shrinking ourselves. We don't feel confident. Sometimes when the stakes are high, when there are very senior people, then we naturally think like, we're not good enough, or when we know that it's based on the people in the room. So if there are experts in the room, there are SMEs, or when we are unsure, sometimes we just walk into the room already shrinking ourselves. So does that happen to you? Give me a thumbs up. I already saw a few going up. And the third, do you replay conversations? Conversations have happened, meetings have happened, but you replay these conversations later, wishing that you had sounded more confident. I should have said this, I should have sounded better. Yeah, if that happens, give me a thumbs up. Okay, right, I do see that. And for those of you who gave a thumbs up for any of these questions, I see many thumbs up going up. Okay, so you know what? You are not alone, because anywhere I run this training, go to organizations, this program job as a full day program. Everywhere people say a yes to this. And that's the reality, right? So on side, we are trying to publishing our executive presence, but on the other side, we sometimes go through this, where in reality, in meetings, in conversations, we still struggle a little establish the executive presence that we want to. And it isn't just a matter of subject matter expertise, right? I know of leaders who are the subject matter expert. In fact, they will be leading an entire function, but sometimes in some meetings, they shrink themselves because of the way the conversations are going, because of the way they struggle to put their idea forward, or because somebody else is putting their feet down and sharing their point strongly, that they are struggling in that moment and they feel low. I run one-to-one coaching for many leaders, and this is one thing that keeps coming up every time, whether it's people in the middle management or in the senior leadership team. People work on this. They might seem perfectly confident from the outside. These are leaders whom people revere as great leaders. People look up to them as role models, but they will personally be going through this in their mind, and they reach people like me, they reach work on. So this is a normal thing that as humans go through. So now we'll figure out then, how do we work over this and how do we handle this, which is where executive presence plays a very important role. Now I'd like to tell you about these two new words, right? One may not be new, which is VUCA. You must have heard this word, that we live in a VUCA world, right? This was a word that was buzzing in, say, the especially from the 2000, from the Y2K problem that happened into the 2000. In case you're a Gen Z, you might not be aware. World was even in around the 2010s, etc. They would say we live in a VUCA world, and a VUCA world is an acronym. So VUCA stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So they say that we live in a world that, any change that you make, anything that you do, just evaporates and new changes come in. There's a lot of uncertainty. You never know what's going to happen. Things change, challenges crop up from anywhere. Everything was complex, right? It was not easy compared to the world that it was earlier. And people had to work on ambiguous environments. You could not wait for getting complete clarity. You have to be able to work in an ambiguous environment. Now, the good news is we no longer live in a VUCA world. But the bad news is we now live in a BANI world. And BANI is a term that came, it was sort of coined in the 2018, and ever since the pandemic happened in 2020, this word has now being used across industries, especially IT with AI, and then slowly everybody agrees that yes, we are in a BANI world. So BANI means brittle, anxious, non-linear, and incomprehensible. The world is brittle. It's very difficult to lay very strong systems, right? If you are anxious, everybody else is also anxious, because you can't strongly lay methods and ways by which you are absolutely on 100% sure to say that this is what will happen. So it could fail, there could be unexpected changes. Things are very non-linear. The traditional waterfall model almost does not exist in almost every industry. And the world is incomprehensible. What used to be ambiguous today is even very difficult to comprehend about what's happening. And before you even get a full comprehension of what's happening, you already have to start working in that environment. So that's the world that we are in today. So presence, executive presence has also changed. Earlier, presence was about how powerful do I look, right? But the modern presence is about how regulated and clear do people feel around me. Do people feel clear? Do people feel calm? So is there anxiety coming down? Are they feeling like they have a direction now? That's the modern presence, right? So executive presence in itself today, it's not about position. To be able to establish this kind of executive presence, you need not have to have the leadership position, or you need not be the one who has the say in the matter. It is purely today based on how well you are able to regulate yourself, meaning that even when emotions run high, you're able to regulate yourself and be the calm in the storm. And then you're also able to influence the room to make the room better. from any seat. You could just be someone in the meeting, but can you still, okay, I'm just switching off my camera for more clarity. So regardless of where you are seated, if you can still establish that presence, right, which is to be regulated and to be seen as somebody who shows the true north in the room. When you speak, if people feel, okay, I have to listen to this person is saying something that is truly valuable for me, right? That is the kind of regulation that we're talking about. And that today is the modern executive presence that the world is truly looking for. It's not looking for people who have authority or power. It's actually looking for somebody who makes me feel comfortable, someone who makes me feel that there is hope amongst the anxiety, and that we can actually move forward and this person is there to handle this for us. Now, in this sense, owning the room involves three things, three presence. So the word executive presence can be broken down into three presence that we need to establish. One is the internal presence in itself, which is about um, to be able to even, to be able to regulate and to be able to um, bring that calmness while everybody else is anxious, simply calls for self-regulation, emotional intelligence, emotional steadiness, and also the other side is to be confident and not shrink oneself, neither be overpowering and authoritative, to balance between not shrinking nor overpowering. So that's the internal presence. So the first question is to think about, where is my internal presence at work? Now, when it's a normal situation, when things are going fine, we all mostly tend to have a great internal presence. But this is challenged only when it is, a difficult situation. When it's a high emotion situation, that is when this is mostly challenged. And the other perspective to this is also that this roots from emotional intelligence. So it's quite possible that we're all different people at work and we're a different person personally, right? Now the important thing is to be able to master internal presence. First of all at work, and it's very normal. There are theories that say that the behavior at work could and in fact should be different, while as a person, as an individual, your personality could be different. So starting off with work and then maybe slowly making it your personality overall, right? So that's number one. The second part of the executive presence is relational presence. This is extremely crucial in today's world. The words that we all said, right? The difference between command, authority, or being somebody who cares more about one's own requirements and one's own individual strategy, and being somebody who's warm, somebody who is seen as a great leader, somebody who cares and dares for the team, that difference is through the relational presence. Relational presence is about how you make other people feel. What is the kind of relationship that you make people experience in your presence? When they speak, do we listen to them? Do we listen in a way that we're not thinking about what we have to say, but we're thinking purely from their perspective and what they might be going through? Do we show respect signals? Respect signals are little things like giving the person eye contact, right? Or in fact, if you are in a meeting and there is a speaker, and if you don't turn on your video, right? Um, uh, I would say, I mean, of course, now you cannot turn on your video, but even generally, if you are in a meeting room and you hesitate to turn on your video in a virtual call, you are losing out on the opportunity to create executive presence, because that is also a respect signal when somebody is speaking. So giving people eye contact, coming on video, nodding wherever required, and waiting for them to finish, not interrupting. These little things go a long way in relational presence. Micro behaviors that build inclusion. It can be simple things like ensuring everybody got an opportunity to share, or nobody feels left out, or nobody feels like they don't belong in the discussion. So those conscious behaviors of establishing great relationship in conversations is what we're referring to as relational presence. And the third part is the external presence. Now, this is what people see from your body language, from the way you carry yourself, from your gravitas, right? So, external presence can't just be faked, which is why we've put it at the third place. Internal presence is extremely crucial for external presence. Similarly, relational presence, genuinely listening, genuinely respecting people shows out in our external presence. So, how people notice from the outside is your voice, your tone, the clarity with which you speak, the pace at which you speak. If you stammer and stretch every word, then people think that you're not too sure of what you're saying. If you run too fast and just rattle it off as you speak, that also does not make you be seen as a very confident person. Body language plays an extremely important role. Being confident, right? The ability to be confident in a room is translated through your posture, the way you sit, the way you give eye contact, the way you also carry yourself, which could be if you're standing in front of people, the way you move, the way you come towards people, your gestures, your facial expressions, your body language says a lot more than the words. And people go by what they see more than what they hear, which is why voice and body language becomes all the more crucial. And then when you speak, do you speak with a structure? Do you speak briefly? Is there brevity yet clarity, right? How many words does it take for a person to explain something? And if a concept, they say that, if you can't sum up your idea in brief in 1 minute for people to understand it within the first 1 minute, and then you give other details, but then if you can't simplify it and share what it is in 1 minute, then it talks a lot about your expertise. Unfortunately, it could simply be a communication challenge. Maybe the person is not able to put it in a structured way, but they might have the subject matter expertise. But unfortunately, if you're not able to communicate it with that kind of structure and clarity and brevity, it is unfortunately seen as a capability issue as well, right? I have seen in my 15 years of experience, being part of the HR team, the learning and development team, many leaders are in the category of not ready or ready later for the next leadership position, but they don't come to the ready now position. You see, when we do this thing, HRs do this thing called succession planning. They sit with leaders to see who the leader has next in line after them in that position. When we do this discussion, there are many leaders who say, oh, this person is a great talented extremely capable person, but somehow he or she is not yet ready. And when we ask about why, the reasons are mostly these softer skills. It's these very things that I have been speaking about, very often these very things that you're seeing on this slide. And the lack of some of these comes out in different other words, right? It comes out as lack of leadership communication, or lack of executive presence, or lack of the ability to own the room, or the person is not seen as people friendly, the person is not empathetic. Uh, these are all words by which they describe, but in essence, it's the absence of these presence that you're seeing on this slide, which is why it becomes crucial, right? So I hope we are clear so far. If you have any thoughts on this, do you resonate with this? What do you think? Um, have you noticed how any one of these plays a crucial role in one's executive presence? You can put that on chat. And I hope that my voice is clear now after I switched off the camera. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So someone has shared in the chat that yes, these factors play a crucial role, right? All right. So now we'll move on. We'll move on to see how then to build these presence, the executive presence, right? So this year, one of the most important theme is the give to gain theme, right? Almost every organization is looking at this as a very crucial theme for, say, it's been the theme for, say, Women's Day, or it's been the theme for their, other events that are happening. For almost every other event, we can told by organizations that give to gain is our theme. So similarly, in executive presence as well, you give to gain, right? What do you give? You give attention, then you gain the trust of people. You give respect, you get buy-in from people, right? Getting a buy-in without showing respect does not work anymore in the Bani world that we are in. It could have worked in a world where authority or command played a role. Today, people don't want that. Today, with the social media and so many other ways by which people have been empowered to speak up, um, they don't easily put up with lack of respect or lack of attention or lack of empathy. And in today's world, one is not seen as a leadership material if they lack these three or any of these three. I was working with one leader who was he was next in line for the CTO role, right? The chief technology officer of an organization. But he was clearly told that you lack empathy and you're not seen as a people friendly person. And so this person wanted to work on this skill. So he came to me for a one-to-one coaching. He knew that this was something that he had to work on to show empathy in conversations. He said he went through many trainings as well on how to build empathy. So he said, Narani, I know that the techniques to be empathetic. So I know to say, I understand the situation, but here's what you should do. Consider this, think about. But he said, having learned all that, I'm still not able to practice empathy. It just doesn't come for me. And then I asked him, how does the empathetic version of you look like to you? And he said, no, I feel that that is lack of leadership skill. I see that as weakness. So, sometimes we probably aren't able to do some of these if we don't have the belief in it, right? Which is the very reason we're looking at this slide. It's very easy to say you have to be empathetic. It's very easy to also believe that I am empathetic. But the question is, how far do we believe in it? And how far do we show it in every conversation? It's a huge shift that you're seeing here because executive presence is mostly seen as something else. And now we're coming to the human elements. But today in the Bani world, this is what is crucial for executive presence. Right. So with that very important point, I'm going to move on into a couple of techniques that you can follow to own the room. Number one is even though we say attention, respect, and empathy, we need to be able to balance it with confidence, right? So not at the expense of, say, shrinking yourself or not feeling confident or feeling like you're not welcomed or part of the room. How do you still make your presence felt? And how do you still own the room? Number one is speak from a position and not from permission, right? It should never be that you speak like, can I say this? Or I might be wrong, but I think, if you say these things, you're speaking from a space of permission, where you are putting yourself in a place of you give me permission and then I will speak. Or maybe I shouldn't be speaking here, but I'm speaking. But never do that. So instead, you could say, here's what I recommend. From whatever we are hearing, I think this is the issue. What do you think? Or if I had to take a lead on this, what is your thought? Right? right? Or let's move forward with this. What is your opinion? As long as you balance it with empathy, which is, okay, I'm sharing my view, but I'm not saying that that's what is the only one. I'm sharing this confidently, but I'm creating room for you to share your thought as well, right? So speaking confidently with empathy. So for this, the tool number one is do a 3-second pause. Now, when the discussion is going well, it's all perfectly fine. But when discussion is not going well, when either you feel like you are shrinking yourself, or you feel that you're not heard, or even if it's going the other way around, where you probably tend to react aggressively, do a 3-second pause. So just give it few seconds where you collect your thoughts, you regulate yourself, and you know what, that pause also commands attention. Every time you make a point, give a 3-second pause. We generally think that great communication means to keep communicating continuously, but that's not really true. Great communication is when you make people reflect when you communicate, and people miss out on that. Many people don't even pause for a second if once they've made a great point. When you've made a point, give a 3-second pause. Just let people think, and that silence creates so much of impact. It's just like how in any great music or in any great movie, the part which is the most important part is where there won't be any music. It'll simply land in a silence after a very important message or a dialogue, because that is so powerful. The silence in the room makes people think. It also makes people to agree with you. And that's a secret. The second is acknowledge and add model. So first, acknowledge people. Acknowledge for whatever they are saying. Now, acknowledgement does not mean that you agree. So very often we think that if I say, okay, yes, it means that I have to agree. So even when someone is speaking, we tend to say, no, no, but a lot of times we start with a no. No, but then this is how it is. But here's what it is. Or on the contrary, this is the thing that we're saying. Without even acknowledging what someone is saying, anything that you say is very often not going to be heard by them because you did not show that you heard them. So, acknowledgement is with whatever, after whatever this person said, I want to build on it, right? Or adding to what was the point given by Rahul, adding to the point that she just gave. Or if you have something to say that is not in agreement, then you can say, I hear the reason with which you are saying this. I can see why you're saying this, what makes you say this. However, have you thought about what if this happens? Have you thought about what will be the results if we implement this problem, this solution? Or you say that I agree with you on this, and this. But on the last part, I hear you, I hear why you're saying this. However, I'm concerned about what would happen to the bandwidth of our people, or what would happen to the cost or the impact of this method. So, giving an acknowledgement to them does not mean that you agree. Acknowledge that you've heard them, acknowledge that you are also thought through from their perspective, and then you are adding what you're saying. This helps you to own the room because you're now seen as a very warm and friendly person in the room. You're not seen as somebody to whom people have to defend themselves. They believe that you're already thinking from their place. You're already understanding what they have or they wanted to say. So that's the second part. And the third is to have a very clear framing. If we are not able to say our recommendation or our point in one sentence or in 1 minute, it does have an impact on how far we're able to influence and own the room. So, what does it call for? It calls for the ability to think from the listener's perspective. That helps you to reframe in a very structured way, in a way that they can accept or buy your idea. Also, it involves thinking, making a concise or a brief version of the same thing that you're saying, constantly thinking, is this an absolutely necessary information, or is it something that's just a add-on, right? Am I speaking of the core message, or am I beating about the bush? Am I trying to put it this way so that I come across as somebody who's very nice and friendly? Or can I put it in a way that I take control of what I'm saying? So clear framing in itself is quite an important topic. It's huge, and we could do that over a long session. But this, like I said, being an awareness session, I'm giving you this input, right? At least to keep it in mind, that to structure my thought in a very clear frame and be able to say my recommendation or my point simplified in one sentence or in 1 minute. And then you could add your points, and then you could strengthen it with all the data points. But to be able to first frame it clearly. This also calls for you quickly becoming clear of what you want, you knowing what is the true north, what is the real goal. You can't do this if a person who's not very clear on the goal and what we're trying to achieve and what I want. Sometimes these three can be different. Very often, the goal and what we're trying to achieve can be different from what I want. And you need to make peace with yourself and with that goal at that minute and say, okay, maybe I want to be doing it this way because of that, whatever the effort that I put into this, and I don't want it to go a waste, or it's some sort of an animosity that I already have with the person. It could be an ego. So breaking that clear decisions in the moment, these play a very important role in clear framing. So these are three tools that help us to articulate very effectively. And all this is to do with the communication skill in the room, right? Give me a thumbs up if you're clear so far. Okay, see a few thumbs up. Thank you. So now we'll continue, and just the last couple of sections. Must all be able to recognize her, Palki Sharma. Um, when it comes to tone of communication, I think she is somebody who was an expert in this area. Palki Sharma, in case you haven't seen her, just take a look at any of her videos. Um, in fact, I thought I'll play one, but you could quickly just browse in the interest of time. So she, as many of you would know, she was running First Post, and which is channel. Today, she's moved on from there for something even better, I think. And she's been a great voice of India. She's represented India in many debates and forums globally because of the way she had the ability to, one, do what we saw in the previous slide, which very clear framing, absolute clarity in what she says. But the main trick that worked to her advantage is her tone. So, number one is pause. If you notice the way she speaks, every time she would pause very clearly every sentence. That makes you to register the information and the pace impact on your executive presence. The right pace, which is in a way that it is not too slow, but moderate, and people feel that you are speaking with absolute clarity and conviction. That establishes the confident uh, presence. And keeping it very simple and impactful, like I already said, right? A very clear. So that is extremely important when it comes to tone. And for the last part, I'd like to show you about body language. Let me just probably quickly switch off my camera in case voice isn't clear. And I'll also show this video for you. This is from okay, here's a scene from the movie Princess Diaries. You might have seen this. If you have, great. If not, also it's perfectly fine because we are seeing it now. But this is a queen. Um, this is a queen who is teaching her granddaughter who's about to be a princess, but somebody who needs a lot of lessons on being a princess, especially on executive presence.
Amelia, circle slowly so I can evaluate the work to be done.
Can you confirm if were you able to hear the audio? Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I'm just going to go to the
Amelia,
important part.
does your bad posture affect your hearing? Turn.
Oh, sorry.
No, slowly turn. Slowly. Thank you. Well, carriage, obviously. Hairstyle. Complexion. Stop. Eyes, lovely. But hidden beneath bushman eyebrows. The neck is seemly. Ears. Like a face like these.
Everybody?
Well, tomorrow I would like to see clean fingers, and you will wear stockings, not tights, not socks, and I never want to see those shoes again. When walking in a crowd, one is under scrutiny all the time. So we don't slump like this. We drop the shoulders, we think tall, we tuck under, and we transfer the weight from one foot to... No, princesses never cross their legs in public. Why don't you just tuck one ankle behind the other and place the hands gracefully on the knees? Charlotte, I think it's time for tea.
Okay. So no, this is not Devil Wears Prada. This is Princess Diaries. Yes. So yes. So like you saw in that video, body language, the way we carry ourselves, plays a very important and crucial role on executive. That is your also a part of your external presence, as we were seeing. So let me just show you where we are. So looking at these three presents, as you may recall. Now, presence, body language plays a very important role is something that we saw. Voice was another one for which we saw the last slide. So this video is in connection to establishing your body language. So as you could see very clearly from this video, one is always under scrutiny when you are in a crowd, right? Of course, it is perceptional, but unfortunately, perception speaks louder than reality. And also, it is true that your confidence does get exhibited in the way you carry yourself. People don't just, it's not just a perception. In fact, you can't just fake body language, right? It in fact comes out from confidence. However, working on one's body language goes a long way in building one's confidence too. So if you just think about it, just think about the way you are seated, right? now, right? And I would say just freeze wherever you're seated. Just freeze and observe the way in which you are seating. Don't move and just notice the way you are seated. Are you having your neck slouched, your shoulders slouched? Are you or are you sitting with a straight back, with your neck held high, neck elongated, with a very clear and calm facial expression? This is something that I would urge everyone to be conscious of, because when you naturally slump and slouch, it does affect the way you think about yourself. Erect, the moment you roll your shoulders back and you elongate your neck, like you saw in that video, it instantly boosts your confidence. It makes you feel better. It's just like how when you dressed well, you feel more confident. It's because the way our internal presence does have a big impact on our internal presence as well, which is why it becomes important. So remember to also watch your body language. A quick trick is what we just saw in this video, like I was saying. Never, yeah, never start a conversation before coming to a confident body posture. So, which is sitting erect, keeping your neck straight, giving a very clear eye contact, keeping your hands in front of you, ready for gestures, giving gestures if it's a virtual call, turning on your camera and using your hand gestures or keeping your hands comfortably on the desk, not sitting too forward and slouched, but sitting erect. These things simply in control on body language. And the other most important part, of course, is the way you dress. The way we dress, where a lot of times it's a very debatable topic where people say, oh, why is it that you have to feel confident only when you're dressed well? You should be confident of yourself regardless. Of course, yes, that is true. But for the case where you want to build confidence in others, it's difficult to deceive people with your looks and then work your hard way out to build that confidence in them. It's better and easier to prove your by also complementing it with your clothing. And when you clothe the right way, the professional way, or the way that you want to establish yourself, um, then that does have a huge impact on how you feel. And that further has impact. And act is kind of a loop, right? It's called a cognitive behavior loop, which is extensively used by psychologists as well. So if you think confidently, you feel confident and you act confident. Now, to break this loop, you can simply work on the way you act confident. And a great way to do that is to be conscious of how you dress and how you carry yourself, right? So, with that, we've come to the end of this webinar. Of course, like I said, right at this session, we just had about an hour, and in 1 hour, I hope that you got some idea about how you can own the room in three different ways: internal presence, relational presence, and external presence. The three areas of how you communicate, which is the words, the pause, 3 second pause, having one clear framing, and all of that, and then your voice and your body language. So in case you're further interested to know more about this, you can reach out to the SkillUpRight team, and they would also bring me on board if you are interested to have a further session for your people or for coaching or for any further information on this program. I hope that so far it was very much for participating in this webinar. And I'm Narayani Raghavan, and I look forward to seeing you in future as well. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.